Next up, David Charles Allen, a Village Properties Realtor and host of The Hop. That's Home Ownership Podcast. It's a Beautiful Life. Hi, David.
Hey, Patty. How you doing today?
I'm doing great.
So mortgage rates this week are actually switched for the first time in quite some time. The 3% for 30-year for conforming, and actually jumbo is lower than conforming. So that's the switch up right there. So it's 2.875 for non-conforming jumbo. Again, this is all dependent on average credit and credit history. So just be sure to talk to your realtor or your mortgage lender to get the bottom of what interest rate's going to be the best for you.
Thank you, David. That's really important to know. Appreciate that. And how can people get a hold of you if they want to learn more about what's available, interest rates, or anything else real estate oriented?
You can get a hold of me at 805-617-9311 or emails david@davidcharlesallen.com.
Thanks, David.
Yeah. And then we'll lead right in and end off with how the statistics have been performing this last week. So we've had 11 coming soon listings, 38 new listings, 3 price changes, 42 pendings, and 33 have closed. So we're still seeing a really big demand. Like you said, 38 new listings and 42 that were pending. So our supply is not building up, and we're reaching again at an all-time low of available houses out there. So there's still a lot of competition, a lot of people looking to purchase, and you just got to do your best and know that your time is going to be right whenever you're able to buy a home.
You are the eternal optimist. I love that about you, David.
All you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm very excited because I know we have a special guest today.
Yeah, we have a great special guest. I'm very excited to talk to her, Laurel Grench. She's actually runner of Dreamcatcher Hill, which is a dog rescue and animal rescue, and also breeder, and amazing person. And we look forward to talking with you more. Laurel, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for being our guest.
So tell us a little bit more about how you got involved with what you're doing now. I know you were a nurse in your prior experience. How did you come accustomed to what you're doing now?
Actually, from grade school, I raised various pets. I've always been drawn to pets and babies, lots of babies. So I was a paramedic and then a nurse. So, yeah, I even worked labor and delivery in the hospital for a while. So,
wow. So you just shifted from two-legged mamas to the four-legged ones. That makes sense to me.
Yep. So it's kind of gone both back and forth. I kind of do all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I like everything.
Yeah. What a wealth of experience you have.
So how did you end up have you lived in Illinois your entire life?
I did. I was actually born in the Chicago suburbs and only lived in Missouri for a couple of years, and then back into Illinois, where we needed to be a little closer to family that was still up in the suburban area.
Okay.
So I've lived in this area for a long time.
How many acres do you have on your farm?
We've got 20 acres, and then we helped my son buy 5 acres that's right next door, which really was kind of for selfish reasons. He can come and help me now on the farm at my beck and call. Doesn't really work that way, but I had hoped.
Perfect. Yes. Ideal. Mm-hmm. And are your grandkids right next door too?
They're 6 miles away,
Mm-hmm.
so pretty close. It's country miles, so it goes pretty quick when you're out here. There's one stop sign.
Oh, that's beautiful. So tell us a little bit more about your farm you have. Is it basically mainly animals, or do you do a lot of gardening and produce as well?
No, it's just animals. We've got 4 separate horse pastures that are, some of them are rescue horses or my daughter's retired horses that live here. And we've got miniature goats or miniature donkeys. We've got milk goats, Nubians, a lot of baby goats right now. We've got 9 baby goats on bottles. Besides dogs, lots of rescued cats. Got chickens and peacocks, ducks. 2 of our very first ducks was a couple months after Easter. They wandered into a relative's garage in town.
Oh
We
no.
don't know where they came from, but they brought
Oh
them out
my
to us and said,
goodness.
"Do you want some ducks?" It's like, okay. So we added ducks.
So
Wow,
I'm
that's
interested. Did you have a suburban life before you were on a farm, so to say?
I did, but I never fit in suburbia. My uncle still has a newspaper clipping. But my goat that I had purchased had gotten out while I was in high school. And so the police ended up at our house because I wasn't supposed to have a goat. So I was
oh,
never meant to live in suburbia.
that is so fascinating that you were not meant to do that. And even as a child, it wasn't working out for you.
No, it didn't work out. So,
Oh,
Well, I feel like
yeah.
with this COVID happening and everyone kind of being secluded in their own houses, a lot of people are looking towards that kind of lifestyle. Is there any recommendations or what you have to be willing to do to kind of live that farm lifestyle with all these great animals around you?
It's a lot of work. I mean, you're surrounded by things that are just cute all the time, and it's really enjoyable, but the physical work is always there if you have any variety of animals or pets. And if you live in rural, you can't just go to town quickly. Town is 12 miles away. So it's a little bit different lifestyle.
yeah.
You
And with
can't
all
just
the
walk across the
babies
street.
that depend upon you, you really have to be up at all hours, I'm sure, making sure they get fed and taking care of them.
It's definitely, if you have anything with babies, like our puppies, it's not uncommon for me to get up every 2 hours around the clock if I have a puppy or a couple puppies that are particularly small. Right now I'm actually bottle feeding baby bunnies.
Oh
But
my
fortunately, bunny rabbits,
gosh.
yeah, they're easier because bunnies only feed their babies 2 or 3 times a day. So as long as I can get them full in a feeding, I'm good for a much longer period of time. But the puppies are pretty much every 2 hours until they're big enough to go a little longer. But yeah, it's a lot of work, not much sleep.
You should do a reality show on your your life, Laurel. It just sounds so fun and interesting, and all the various animals. I have so many questions for you. I wonder, first of all, these cats, because my grandparents lived on a farm. It was about a 40-acre farm in Nebraska, so I know they had a lot of cats around, but they were really quite wild. I mean, they would put out food for them. Are the cats around you? Did you say you have? How many? I mean, are they a little bit tame, or are they feral cats? How would you describe them?
Most of them actually are extremely friendly. We
Oh,
keep food in 4 different places. We have water out. Even when it's freezing, we have to change their water real often to keep it from freezing. We've got relatives with allergies, so we can't have the cats in the house at all.
hmm
But we have a area in the barn, so if we have cats that have just had, we'll keep them in overnight if they've been spayed or neutered, but then we
hmm
have a secluded, nice area in the barn for them to recover after surgery. Everything is spayed and neutered. And a lot of our cats actually came from people who just call me with a real sob story,
hmm
and we end up with their cats. And I'm not
Right.
even a real big cat fan. I
hmm
really like dogs.
Right. I feel the
But
same way, even
they're
though I still could admire their beauty and their freedom and their independence, but I'm just very drawn to dogs. But that's nice to know that
mhm.
they're kind of tame. They're used to people.
Oh yeah, they follow me around, and I usually give them goat milk when I'm milking, so they're quite demanding of
Oh,
wanting to have their fresh goat milk. So
I know you run, you actually sell some of the dogs and you adopt them out as well. And from reading your bio, it's really great that you really try and match the people with the dog's personality. Is that just come from experience, or have you come to really know the dogs and themselves and know the people as well?
generally, it's what people tell you. So sometimes it's not completely accurate. A lot of it is because we have different breeds of dogs, and generally all have different personalities, but matching somebody with both the personality of the puppy, the individual puppy, and the breed is really helpful, because some people only see a picture and they have no idea of what the reality is of, say, living with a terrier. Terriers are very strong-willed, so it's really important that somebody who gets a terrier is also strong-willed, because you really want to match a person's personality with the personality of the dog. Active people get active dogs. Mellow people should have a real mellow dog. So it's hard for people because they see a picture and they think all dogs are the same. It's just you're getting something by looks, and that's not very accurate.
That's so interesting. I actually have a Jack Russell Terrier, but of course I'm not stubborn at all. He might be a little.
Just a wee bit, and active too, I bet.
Yes. But he is definitely ended up being, one of the big loves of my life. That's for sure. And I don't know. This is interesting. To me, I don't know if he was abused or if it's just part of his temperament. He is a scared dog. He acts all tough when he's inside barking at people that walk by. But in reality, he gets really scared. And I got him quite young, but I don't know if he had a bad experience or if it's just his temperament. Would you have an idea?
It can be a variety of, it can be actually lack of experience. Sometimes puppies are just naturally a little bit shy. Mm-hmm. And the more you socialize them with different places, different people, different animals, the more outgoing they become, and they become more confident. So when you have a dog that's home a lot and doesn't get to do a lot of new experiences when they're very young, some of them can react fearfully, and it can take a lot to get them to realize they don't need to act that way.
Right. So we went to a hotel. This is the second time this has happened last weekend. And of course, he was scared to death. But he's a couple years old now, but he still, I don't think I did get him out enough. But he got so scared just being in a new environment that he got out of his harness. But he was very smart, smarter than me. He knew his way back to the room, even though it was a big sprawling place. So that was good.
Wow.
I kind of followed behind him. I knew he wasn't running away per se. He just gets scared. He just kind of freaks out sometimes.
And sometimes people don't realize it, but when you have a scared dog, they want to coddle them and say, oh, it's okay. And actually that can make them more fearful. If you act very confident, they will take your lead. It takes some practice, but if you see them acting fearful, don't look at them, but just it's kind of like, come on, let's go. This is great. We're going to have fun. Oh, and the dog will actually help follow your lead, because they really want to have somebody else leading, and so however you react, they respond.
Yeah, I think I need to follow you around on your farm for a few days.
Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head there. I have a small dog that's 5.5 pounds, a little Chihuahua mix, and a lot of the times she would be scared of the bigger dogs when she was a rescue too, so she was really scared of everything when I first got her. But even taking her to the beach and seeing bigger dogs, she'd get really scared. And, you want to pick her up, but at the same time, you want to be like, hey, it's okay. Let's go. Come on. So,
Okay. And did that help?
Bigger personality, just like you were saying, just from that.
Did it work for her?
It did. It's still, it's still working for her. Yeah.
Oh, terrific.
Yeah.
It does. It's kind of, it seems so abnormal, though. It's exactly the opposite of what we seem to want to instinctively do, is like to pick them up and say, oh, it's okay.
Right.
And unfortunately with dogs and training problems in general, that happens a lot. What you would think would be the best response actually makes the problem worse.
That makes sense, Laurel. Now, I've got an elderly dog in the background who's actually whining a little bit, but, I would like to blame it on you, since you have like 100 animals all around you. I actually know, when I read about you on your website, at one point you had, and I'm sure you've had it several times, an elderly dog in your midst. I mean, my dog is like 20 years old, and he's gone blind in one eye, and the other, I don't know how much he sees out of it. And he does get confused, and yet he really misses me when I'm gone, and kind of howls and cries. It's interesting, because I wouldn't even think he would know when I'm there, but he knows more than I think.
Oh, their sense of smell and their just sense of being is really amazing.
Mhm.
And probably because he is older, he actually has lost confidence and he feels the need to, have somebody close that's familiar. Dogs can get dementia just like people too, and they can get like lost and stuck in literally a corner of a room,
Oh, he
and
does do
because they can
that.
feel a
Mhm.
wall. Yeah,
Yes.
and it's dementia just like
Yeah.
people, so it's really hard watching
Right. It
our
is,
dogs
because he'll
age.
be at the window, thinking it's the door. And so it does happen a bit. And he always seems to follow any person, be right there underfoot. So he must have a little
Hmm.
insecurity, like you're saying. You're just so wise and wonderful. This is amazing to get all this great information.
Well, I don't know about that, but I've
No,
been
it
doing it a long
is.
time, experience.
Yeah.
Don't sell yourself short. So I also wanted to ask you, have you seen a lot of people looking to adopt recently? Because I know our local humane society and rescue centers have kind of been lacking any dogs because people are trying to take them home and spend quality time with them during this situation. Have you kind of seen similar things happen in your area?
I have. In fact, we even had a 7 year, well, we'd had a rescue dog for 7 years that I just could not find an appropriate home for him. And about 2 months after COVID started, we actually had a couple adopt him. And he was a very large black male dog, which unfortunately they're some of the hardest to adopt. I'm not really sure why, because black Labradors are such popular dogs. But he was a lab mix, but he didn't like cats. And he was kind of unpredictable if he was loose with children. Not that he had ever been aggressive, but I just didn't quite trust him. So I wanted to no children, no cats, no other dogs home. And they absolutely love him. Love him. It was a perfect match. He goes for walks all over the place. And when he's on the leash, he's perfectly behaved. So they're just thrilled to have him. And we were great that he waited such a long time to get a home. And I think so many people being home, they actually have the time to spend with training that they don't normally have when they're working and gone for long hours.
Well, I'm so happy for him that he finally got his forever home. That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
That
What
is,
do you do with dogs that are aggressive, whether it's over food or a toy or anything? Do you ever have that problem come up on your farm?
With our own dogs that I have raised, we don't, because I'm the boss. And as long as dogs have a person that's the boss, they actually are really good. But we have had quite a few dogs that we've gotten into rescue that could be a little bit bossy about thinking that they should be the boss.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've ever watched Caesar Milan. I think
Yes.
he's just the most brilliant person ever
I
when it
like
comes
to
to
watch
training
him.
dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and so I have advised people that call me with problems to watch what he does and to understand it's psychology. Currently, people are being told to give their dogs a lot of treats for good behavior, and what I'm seeing is it's actually causing more and more problems because you have to be super good at giving the treat at the exact right moment, and the dog can't be doing anything bad, because if the dog's doing something bad, it's like it sat down, but it's growling at you, and you give it a treat. Well, you just rewarded it growling at you.
Right.
And people don't realize there's a technique with it. So I actually don't like anybody giving dogs treats unless you're more advanced in training, because it's so easy to give them at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of little things.
Yeah.
Caesar really explains it best. Things like you go out the door before your dog. When you feed your dog, you make him wait for his food. You can even stand between him and his food bowl, especially if they're food aggressive. You just don't let him have the food because it's your food.
Mm-hmm.
And when he's sitting and looking at you and being calm, then you can say, okay, I'll share my food with you. You can eat it now. It's super easy. It's really passive, non-aggressive. But in the dog's mind, you were the boss and you told him when he could eat. And so he's not as likely to bite the boss as he is going to bite somebody that it's his food and he's keeping you away from it. So
Right.
it's
Well,
like
I
you're
was
turning the
wondering,
tables very subtly.
yeah, how you felt about Cesar Millan and that method of just thought about dogs, because there, of course, are dogs trainers and dog people who are not fans of Cesar Millan, but I really like him too. And I love to see him walking down the street with this whole pack of dogs. It's just amazing. Or people
Right.
where he's gone to their house and they've had what seem to be severe problems and how quickly he turns things around. It's just amazing.
It is. It's really fascinating. I had German Shepherds before I'd ever seen Cesar Millan, and I really wish I had been able to watch how he was training dogs before I had my Shepherds, because
Mhm.
I never could get them to stop barking at people.
Right.
They weren't aggressive, but they would bark, and they wouldn't be quiet when I wanted them to. And
Mhm.
now when I see that, I know what to do. And it's basically you just put yourself between whatever they're barking at and you stare your dog down, because you're saying, hey, you're out of line, and this person is supposed to be here, but you're acting badly. And
Wow.
by staring at your dog until they calm down or even leave, they realize, oh, you've got this. Okay, fine, you can have it. I won't bark at them anymore because you're in charge.
Well, Laurel, I've got to try that because Ollie, that's the one who gets scared. He barks all the time from the inside when he knows he really doesn't have to confront anybody. And then my daughter's pug lives with us too, and he barks at everybody outside. So I've tried squirting him with a squirt gun. I've tried giving him treats, but I've probably done it wrong when he's not barking. So I'll have to try some of this. I've got issues.
You'll have to try it.
Nobody's going to hire
It's
me as a
hard to be
dog
that
trainer.
person.
I know.
It's hard to be persistent, though. Once you start it, you have to do
Yes.
it every single time.
Right.
And it is really shocking how quick, when you do it every time, it's like something switches in their brain and they realize something's changed. But when a dog's done it for a long time with a habit, it can take a little longer for that switch to happen. So you have to be really persistent and patient, waiting for them to understand that you're in charge.
Wow.
So they're great. I can't imagine not having a variety of dogs.
Yeah.
So how many animals do you have in total, do you think, or do you not have a running count?
I really don't have a running count. I did just count out that I do have 8 full-size horses, 1 miniature horse. We've got 4 donkeys, and the goats, we've got 5 adult goats and 9 babies. The others change a lot. So
Yeah.
we especially the cat situation, where we ended up with quite a few extra cats because somebody was being evicted and she had 7 cats and begged me to take them.
Oh, wow.
So we ended up getting them, and then with our puppies, we adopt out the puppies regularly, so that number changes depending on just how many are here and how many have been old enough to go to new homes.
And you
So we don't have any rescue dogs right now. They did all get homes.
Oh, it's
So
wonderful.
I just love that.
So you started as a West Highland Terrier breeder before you expanded to all these other creatures. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is. I had originally full-size collies for a while and German Shepherds, and then when I got my first Westies, we were actually babysitting them, and I just fell in love with them. They just have so much personality, and yet they're small and they don't shed very much. So I've had Westies for over 30 years now.
Wow.
Are Westies hypoallergenic?
They are. A lot of the Terriers are actually hypoallergenic.
Okay.
Which makes them easier for some people if you have allergy problems in the family.
So you are a dog breeder in a sense, but a lot of dog breeders out there get bad reps. Is there a reason for that in terms of how you can differentiate yourself, so to say?
A lot of dog breeders are just in it for the money. And so their parent dogs, they don't house them very well. They don't get the vet care they need. And they're just kept more like somebody would breed. I mean, it's really sad, but the commercial industry of like chickens and cattle, and dogs are just so intelligent. We do like a lot of health testing. Every dog breed has potential problems that are more common in that particular breed. Like you've probably heard of hip dysplasia in German Shepherds. There's just certain things, but you can do testing for a lot of these things. And so we do a lot of testing. Our vets, we actually have home numbers for our veterinarians. So if we have an emergency, we'll take our dogs in at any time. And a lot of breeders just don't do that, but they're our furry best friends.
Yeah. My youngest daughter just got she's an adult, but she just got her first puppy, a golden retriever. And my goodness, she's having so much fun, but it's like a big responsibility. It's like a test for motherhood. I think it's very good. She got married last year, but she did get the dog, from a pet store. And had she asked me, I would have probably told her to go to a breeder, because you hear so many stories about dogs at pet stores, but maybe some of them are okay. What do you think, Laurel?
It really depends on the pet store and where they truly get them from. Unfortunately, with the pet stores, you often have no way to know anything about the dog's background, if the parents have been tested for any of the common health problems in that breed, and you don't know how the puppy was raised or how the parents are kept. So that's the biggest problem with pet stores. And pet stores, a lot of times, don't even know where they get their dogs, because they get them from a broker. So that's where the puppy mill problem comes from, is nobody knows exactly where the dogs start until somebody's seen a place in person.
Yes.
And it's problematic.
Yeah, I saw a terrible post on Facebook. I just had to leave the post almost as soon as I saw it, but it had these puppies just in a cage, just one on top of the other, on top of the other. I think somehow it may have been associated with China, but it was just heartbreaking to see these beautiful animals put in such a space where they wouldn't have room to go to the bathroom or anything. It was just horrible.
Yeah, you may have actually seen the China dog meat market, which is the most horrific thing ever.
Maybe.
And they pack them in there into, basically it's a wire box full of dogs. It's just terrible. Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
horrifying.
There's a lot of really terrible things out there, unfortunately. So, and that's one of the reasons I avoid telling people to ever get a puppy from a pet store, is because it helps people be accountable when somebody can literally come to your home and see the dogs where they're living. To me, that's important. If you're going to basically spend your money and promote this, you want to do it in a way that you're not actually promoting somebody who has their dogs that, they're out in all weather conditions and they don't have shelter or appropriate veterinary care.
Yeah, and my daughter, who adopted this pug, supposedly from a welfare organization, she drove down to San Diego. They advertised, and it was obviously a terrible situation. Her little puppy, first we thought he was a dwarf because he was so tiny, his little ribs were sticking out. They were like 2 days late in delivering them to her. But when she saw him, she knew she had to take him and try to save his life. And now he's a healthy little guy. You could tell any food he would just be starved for, and now he actually turns his nose up at dry food. So it's a nice turn of events, and he's a darling little puppy. But even some of these so-called rescue organizations are not really what they claim to be.
No, they're not. It's really sad. There are people who make a lot of money where they get dogs and they don't take care of them appropriately because they're not interested in the dogs. They're only interested in who's going to actually pay an adoption fee. And things like that. I mean, that we actually also helped with a lot of dogs that are on transport, where there's a lot of shelters in different areas, particularly the South, and I don't know what the difference is, but in the South, there's a lot of shelters that have very short hold times, so a stray dog could be picked up, and if nobody claims it within 4 to 10 days, it's euthanized. And there's a lot of rescue organizations that have the 501c3 nonprofit status, and so they have a way to get those dogs and see those dogs. Some of them aren't even open to the public. You don't even know the dog's there.
Right.
And they can then rehome them. So we also help with both transport or overnighting dogs, because there seems to be less dogs in the north than there are in the south. So for quite a while before COVID anyway, there were a lot of humane societies or rescue organizations that actually had people wanting dogs, and they didn't have any dogs, so they would work to get the dogs transported from where they're going to be euthanized in the South to their organization where they can get them into homes. And we've had several dogs where they're coming all the way from Texas and they're going to Michigan. And St. Louis is kind of a hub, and we're fairly close. So we've overnighted them. They've had weather problems where we've had dogs for a week or two, and we just keep them here. But it's like one time we had a mom with all these puppies, and I was like, you don't get a whole lot of information. And I'm like, oh, this puppy's almost dead, and those aren't all her puppies. I don't know where the puppies came from, but they don't match at all.
Right.
And we ended up taking the puppies to the veterinarian ourselves because, they arrived in such bad shape, but that's because they had just come out of a shelter and they just weren't taken care of.
Wow.
So there's a lot of people that do there's little pilots that have their own planes that literally will fly dogs from one city to another, just volunteering. It's wonderful.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Well, there's going to be a special spot for you in heaven, and all the dogs you have taken care of that are on the other side, I'm sure over the Rainbow Bridge, will be there to greet you. It's just amazing work that you're doing. You're not an official nonprofit, are you, Laurel, even though you do all this good work and obviously spend your own money to care for a lot of animals in bad shape?
We're not. I do work with a couple rescues that are nonprofit, but it's a paperwork issue, and technically I have to be careful. I can rehome a dog, but I can't really do true rescue in Illinois until we're actually building a kennel, because in Illinois, if you rescue a dog and you adopt it out with a contract, they have a lot of very strict requirements. Like, the dog's not allowed to be with your own personal dogs. The dog has to be either on concrete wire or plastic. And it's just a ridiculous environment, because here you're supposed to be rehoming the dog and you're teaching it house manners before it goes to a new home, but they want you to keep it in the kennel. So it's a really difficult situation. And so, but we can rehome them as long as we fit within the rules. And but we are actually building a kennel, and I hope to be able to house them for state approval to get rescue 501c3 for that part.
Oh, I hope
so. We can do more of it.
That would be wonderful. And I do want to remind our listeners that you're Laurel Grench, and it's Dreamcatcher Hill, and your website is laurelspuppies.com, and Laurels is spelled Laurels.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thanks, Laura. I just want to expand on one thing. I know you had a quote right here that there's beauty in all around us and in us, despite our emotional brain blocking what our senses can pick up in the here and now. So I think that's a beautiful kind of saying for where we're at in this time. And it seems like your situation with all the animals around you, you're allowed to see that beauty. And if you have anything to say to other people that might be listening about how they could kind of tap into their own intuition and beauty and what's around them.
Oh, just to keep your mind open and appreciate everything, and even those small things. It's amazing when you start to appreciate the little things in life, how everything just goes so much smoother, and to never give up. Just keep plugging along when things seem difficult.
Oh,
that's amazing, Laura. Well, thank you so much for being on today. We learned a lot, that's for sure.
Yeah, we did. And thank you for being a true dream catcher for animals and people. Thank you, Laurel.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye. Oh, David, I so enjoyed talking to her. She was just delightful. Great. What a big-hearted woman.
Breath of fresh air, that's for sure. A lot of sunshine.
Absolutely.
So how do you feel about having a farm now?
Oh, I don't know that I'm a farm girl, but I would like to have a few acres. I think that would be lovely. Laurel does a lot of work day and night. That's a lot, keeping all those animals going and caring for them. Just definitely a full-time job, and you need a lot of help for that. But thank God there are people like her.
Yeah, right. It's really
Mhm.
beautiful that there's people out there like her
Yeah.
that are really doing all they can for other beings, not even
Mhm.
people, but the animals around them as well.
Absolutely.
All right, Patty. Well, it's great having you. Let's give it a go next week.
Okay, thanks, David. Take care. Bye-bye.